Sometimes as a content creator, you get inspired by really weird things. And this box has inspired me today. Investments you hold. That's the tagline that is used by APMEX. Whether it's better to physically hold your gold and silver or have it digitally, that is an interesting question and something I've talked on before. But I want to check in on that subject because with the market being where it is and premiums being where they are, there are certainly arguments for both sides. So let's dive in and have a good old ramble about physically owning precious metals or digitally owning precious metals, and which is better. Hello everybody, Backyard Bullion here, and a very warm welcome to you all joining me for another Precious Metal Ramble. Today inspired by this beautiful APMEX box. They're not sponsoring today's video, it just happens that they've got a very interesting phrase on their box, investments you hold. So I want to do a bit of a check-in on that whole concept of whether it's better to physically own and hold your precious metals, or whether perhaps it's even more lucrative to digitally hold your precious metals. So have them in ETFs or a bullion vaulting service, for example. There are certainly pros and cons for both, and I hope to present some of those arguments here today. And it'd be great to hear from you down in the comment section about what you think on this subject, whether or not the real stuff, the physical stuff, is for you above any digital product. It'd be great to hear from you down in the comment section. Otherwise, let's crack on and get this beautiful pile of gold and silver out of this box. So it's a pertinent topic, I think, for myself, as I have always been a physical gold holder and silver holder. I haven't had any vaulted products. I have considered them, and I felt that actually having the physical gold and silver tends to be better for me for a few reasons. First up being that I feel like the general liquidity is better, and that sounds a bit weird because you can theoretically just shut down your ETFs and your bullion vaults very quickly and get your cash out. However, I don't like the idea that if there was a complete brown stuff hit the fan moment, to put a phrase in place, that might be the case. These companies are, at the end of the day, companies. You rely on them being solvent, on them being liquid. And I am not a fan of having all of those eggs in that basket and not being able to do that. There were a few examples where I was not able to get physical precious metals that I had in storage from Hatton Garden Metals, of all places. So this beautiful bag of sovereigns here, Hatton Garden Metals during lockdown had a Krugerrand of mine that I bought just before lockdown hit. And I couldn't deliver it, and I couldn't go and pick it up, and I couldn't sell it to them because they didn't get any staff coming into the office and they couldn't process anything. So I basically had an ounce of gold that was just sort of held hostage by the system. And I didn't really like that concept, so physically holding this stuff was better for me. Arguably, in that lockdown period, it's like, well, how do you sell this stuff and get your cash if all of these companies that you're going to sell them to have gone down? Well, the answer is the second-hand market, individuals and people. And that's where I think physically holding this stuff, for me anyway, certainly wins it. However, right now, in this crazy world, we are seeing very, very big movements in premiums on gold and silver. And I'm saying big movements in the downward trend area. So premiums on gold and silver are vastly different than they were during the COVID crisis, building up to the ridiculous silver squeeze movement by the Wall Street Silver Group. And oh goodness me, it still makes me sad to this day to think how many people are just so deep underwater on their physical gold and silver, having basically just bought whatever they can at whatever price they can, buying eagles at $50 an ounce and more. And now you see silver being at £17.50 an ounce. What's that, about $20 an ounce, something like that. And the premiums on silver and gold are really, really low. There is such demand for it. The dealers are struggling to shift their products. And so it means that people can get a really good price. And I'm seeing that reflected in the second-hand market as well. You know, gone are the days where you could put up a Britannia at 7, 8, 9, 10 pounds over spot price and it go. You know, you have to really be pricing it now at 22, 21, 23 pounds an ounce, that mark really, for it to be competitive. And that's, I think, only a good thing in my opinion. It means that we have a better swing if we are getting into the market now. And these people who will have bought, maybe you're one of them, maybe you are sitting on a pile of gold and silver, or maybe just silver, because that's really where the major premiums were hitting back a few years ago. Maybe you're sitting there with all of these premiums and just really not knowing what to do about it, and you're going to have to hold it. But then there are lots of people who just get fed up, give up, want to put that money in something else because there could be better returns on something else in a shorter term. And that really is very sad that there's going to be a lot of people who will lose out a lot of money on those investments. So the argument there is that perhaps when premiums on physical precious metals are high, the actual vaulted silver, the ETFs, the digital silver and gold is a much better option to get. And so for us in the UK, we've got to think about that, because whilst in America you can get silver at pretty low prices, close to spot price sometimes, in the UK it's very difficult to get that unless you're buying on that second-hand market, and it's not a reliable market to go and buy from. If you've just suddenly got, big bonus at work and you want to put a lot of it into precious metals, you can't just easily go to any sort of second-hand market and go, yep, I'm going to have that and that and that, job done. It's very much reliant on what's available at that moment. So you have to go to dealers, and dealers charge the premiums, they charge the tax, and it's not an easy way to accumulate metals at the best price. So digitally, you can accumulate those metals at a really great price. And for the premiums, when they're high, that makes a lot more sense than right now, perhaps, where those premiums are actually quite low. So at the moment you can, and if you're paying more than a few percentage points over spot price for gold right now, then you should really have a hard, long think about what kind of gold it is you're buying and where you're buying it from. If you're buying it from a dealer at 5% over spot price, I will say to you that you can buy it at 1%, 2% over spot from the second-hand market, and you can even buy it at spot price. I've seen spot price deals on Gold Britannias on the Silver Forum. I have personally sold gold at spot price through my selling service. There are plenty of opportunities out there to get it at a better price. Now that liquidity, that speed of sale comes into the question at the other end. And that's the only time, in my opinion, that I think that the physical stuff lags behind the bullion vaulting kind of companies. If you wanted to get your money out of gold and silver and you had it all in sort of vaulted products, theoretically it's a lot quicker and easier to get that money out. As I said, my only hesitation is if there was a real sort of liquidity issue for that particular company, or if there was a kind of global lockdown-y type issue again, can you physically get your precious metals, money out of those precious metals? There's definitely arguments against that. With premiums being low at the moment, I do feel though that my conclusion on whether or not you should still have physical gold and silver is that yes, physical gold and silver right now is still, I think, a better option. If we're going to look at the premium game market, if we're going to say, well, premiums are really low right now, are they the lowest that they've ever been? I'd argue that actually somewhat yes. I remember the sort of the pre-COVID Brexit heydays where you could buy gold from a dealer for 5, 6, 7% over spot price, and you could buy gold from the second-hand market at about 4% over spot price, and that was seen to be a really good deal. And I would happily be buying gold. In fact, I accumulated a lot of gold privately from those kind of deals back in those days, and I was going to hopefully find one that I had just there, but this is in fact from Atkinson's. But even so, I bought a lot of gold from dealers back in those sort of glory days of gold and silver. Now I haven't really bought anything from dealers for, I would say, a good, other than like the odd bit from the Raw Mint for kind of content's sake, I haven't bought anything from dealers for sort of years really. It's been very much the second-hand market that is the source for a lot of my gold and silver. So I do feel that physically owning this stuff is somewhat better. There is only one last thing that I wanted to briefly comment on, and it's not a big problem, which is what I think a lot of misconceptions are about there, is around security of owning physical gold and silver. A lot of people feel that the major benefit of having kind of digital gold and silver, the physical versus the physical, is the security element and not having to worry about security. That is definitely a factor. I'm not going to ignore that that is a factor. However, if you're sensible about your ownership of gold and silver, security isn't really a massive concern. If you're smart and you've got, either a safety deposit box or secure storage, or you've got, You know, your gold and silver, like I have, over multiple locations in multiple storage boxes, in multiple secure storage, and you've got high quality safes where there isn't a video of somebody opening it on YouTube with a magnet or something like that, and you're sensible about your own personal privacy and security, there really isn't a great deal to worry about. Now, it's of course more of a risk than the digital ownership of gold and silver, but it doesn't, in my opinion, outweigh the benefits versus the negatives of having that physical stuff or the digital stuff. So it's not a massive problem, which is why I haven't really sort of talked at length about it here in this particular video. In my opinion, the liquidity side of things and the premium versus the ease of sale of items is the kind of main point that I consider as a stacker, as a collector. And I don't, as you've probably guessed throughout this whole video, haven't really talked about the kind of real kind of world apocalypse, you know, things completely crash, owning this stuff, going and bartering. I do not think that that is something that is really very likely to happen. Yes, arguably you can go and you can barter for things with a gold coin. You can go and find someone who will take some gold off you for goods and services, perhaps, if you're lucky. If you're unlucky and they know you've got gold in an apocalypse, you will have security issues. I don't think it's really a practical solution. If the world really kind of collapses and you're relying on gold and silver as the barter exchange currency, there are bigger problems, and you're probably not going to even be around to actually worry about it. That's my way of thinking. Could I be wrong? Of course I could be wrong, but that's not really what I factor in. There are a lot of people who think that, though, and it can be used as a bit of a fear-mongering sort of argument as to why gold and silver are, physically the best thing that you could ever have in those situations. Food, medicine, water, I'd argue, are even more. You can't use gold. You can't keep warm with gold. You can keep warm with fuel. You can keep your body fueled with food. Shelter is important. All of these different things. But anyway, I start to ramble, and that's what I do best. So that's basically it from me. I would conclude that physically owning gold and silver is best. Certainly right now, when premiums on this stuff are low, I would say it's much better to look to buy as much as you can within your budget physically rather than digitally. However, that's not to say that digital doesn't have its benefits, and it's for each individual person to work out what's right for them. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. It'd be great to hear from you. Otherwise, that is it from me. Thank you all to my Backyard Bullion Ramblers for sticking around and watching to the back end of my videos, especially to the Cool Kids Club members who are incredible at supporting my channel. And also thanks to AppMex. Whilst they didn't sponsor today's video, it is nice to get inspired, and their boxes are absolutely amazing. If you want to get one of these boxes, it's well worth it. They are so good for storage. But anyway, I ramble even further. Tangentially, that is what I do. Thanks all for watching. We'll see you on the next one. As always, please make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.